Hi guys. So I had made this stadium to hold stuff, crafting stuff, for a design team project for Release the Craft In, and people said, well, can you do a tutorial on how you made this? So gonna try. Not the best at tutorials, but let me give you an idea of what you need. Now you can cover this with digitals, you can cover it with regular scrapbook paper, you can cover it with leftover scraps, you can cover this with whatever you want. But basically you need whatever you want to cover it with. These are some leftover black pieces of cardstock cut in an inch wide that I make mini albums too, so I always have lots of black cardstock scraps. I'm going to score these in the middle, and that's how I cover the edges of my stadium to make it nice and tidy and neat before I put the paper on it. You're gonna need some chipboard. I had this left over and these were leftovers, but this was cut from an 8.5 by 11 sheet of chipboard that I purchased on Amazon. I buy it in a big pack. I go through a lot of it because I make a lot of albums. At any rate, let me give you some dimensions for your chipboard. Now, the sides of the box here, I made slightly shorter. And yeah, I probably shouldn't have. So now that I think about that, I'm going to have to raise that up a little bit. Anyway, for the sides of the box and this center section, you will need 3 pieces of 6 1/4 by 5.5 inches. Don't worry about this line here. I'm going to adjust that because now I don't like the way it is right now. For this front piece, you will need a piece that is 11 by 2. For this center piece right here, you will need 11 by 4.25 inches. Now I am not mathematical, so I hope all these inches work out. We're going to put one together, and if not, I'll tell you during the put together. This bottom is 11 by 6 1/4 inches. This back is 11 by 5.5 inches. So we got so far. Again, I think I made a little bit of an error on these sides because the sides have to equal the front. So this angle's going to change a bit. Yeah, so let's do that right away. So what we want when we cut our sides is we're going to want them to match up with the front, which I apparently cut a little bigger than I thought I had. Shocking. I know that I would make a mistake. Not really. Kind of par for the course. And then what you're going to want to do when you cut these pieces... Oh, hold on. Phone. Sorry about that. I'm back. So what you're going to want to do is create an angled cut on each one of these sides and middle pieces from the height of your front to the top of the piece. So we're going to go with this top angle when we cut these. Not the angle I previously put on there because I jumped the gun and put the angle on before I found the scrap I was going to use for the front piece. And you can alter these to be any size you want. This is just, you know, the basic construction because people really liked mine and, pardon me, they wanted to be able to make one of their own, especially when I told them, you know, you could use up scraps and things like that. So also, I'm probably going to wiggle the table a little bit when I make this, so everybody hold on to your hats. So let's cut this piece first. Oh, here we go. Told you this stuff is tough stuff. That's garbage, that extra piece, you don't need that. Let's cut this one. Come on, baby. Maybe I should have done this off camera, guys. What do you think? There we go. And the last one. I made my whole family be totally quiet so I could film, so I'm sure they're going to wonder what all this ruckus is. Oh my gosh. Yeah, there we go. Alright, so what you need to do then is score all this black paper in half and wrap it around the tops of all your pieces, because the sides and bottoms are going to connect and we'll put that paper on later. So let me score these pieces down the middle and apply them to the pieces that I can, and I will come back and show you what I did. All right, see ya. Hold on. Bye. Okay, my crafty friends, I'm back. And what I did was just, as I said before, take a 1-inch strip of black cardstock that was leftover scrap from mini albums and scored it down the middle, glued it across the top of all my pieces that I cut to the dimensions I had previously given, and that finishes off. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like 3/4 of this is going to be covered by the paper when you cover your stadium. By the way, that's a technical name for what we're making. So yeah, you know, if you don't want to score it down the middle and have perfect size pieces, you just have scrap, do that. Whatever works, you know. I'm not your mom. As Nick the Booksmith says, do what you want to do. Okay, so let's start putting this bad boy together. So the first thing that I generally do is take a piece of this, cut it to the proper size for the bottom sides. I don't like that one, it's too narrow. There we go. And I should have got a new bottle of glue. This is going to be way too much of a pain. I wonder if I have one anywhere. Let me see. Hold up. Trust me, it'll be worth it because you won't have to wait when I start gluing stuff together. Looky brand new, but I've got to find my pokey tool to open it. Perfecto. By the way, I found a place on Amazon to buy this by the case. It was $88 for 6 bottles, which sounds incredibly expensive until you realize that you can pay $12 to $15 for just 1 bottle in the store. So anyways, just thought I'd impart that knowledge to y'all. Okay, so then I'm going to lay this down and I am going to glue one of the side pieces to the bottom. And what I do is, where it's scored is going to be the portion where it will bend. So this part will get glued to the bottom. This part will get glued to the side. It's probably a good idea to use some fast grabbing type of glue, like I'm using Fabri-Tac. I've used the Aleene's glue, you know, the white glue from them, but I don't like using their glue on paper because it gets wrinkly, because it's water-based. This is acetone-based, so I mean, it doesn't matter for this portion of the build because, you know, you're not going to really see, like I said, but a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of this when the project's complete. But, you know, just a word to the wise. Okay, so then what we want to do with the next inside piece is cut it to size. A little snip snip. Take the bend where it was scored is going to go into the little tiny piece of space between your 2 pieces of cardstock, and then you're going to glue it down. Now, if it's easier to hold the side up, which it is sometimes for me, you can hold the side up while you're gluing it. Generally, what I do is I set it in that little notchy, fold it down, and then bend the side up and kind of finesse it into place. Yeah, because we all know I am loaded with finesse, right? So this is what it looks on the outside. This is what it looks on the inside, and see, it's kind of like holding it upright already. If you, that's why I like to crease it in the middle, because it gives you a nice, you know, sturdy piece to work with. I'm just using the regular, you know, bulk cardstock that you can get from Michael's. I think it's called Tuxedo Black, something like that. It's only like, I haven't bought it in a while, but it was like $5 a pack for like 50 pieces, something like that. It was not incredibly expensive. Like I said, I have a ton of it around because I also make mini albums, and mini albums use about a metric ton of this for each and every mini album. So there we go. Let's hold this in place and glue it down. Super. So this is what we got so far. Let's grab our back. Here's our back. And we're going to want to do the same process with our back. We're going to glue down a strip, place it underneath. If they're too short, you can piece them, because like I said, you're only going to see a portion of them when it's complete. So let's glue this down. Edge, apply this down. I'm going to glue this fast, and I'll flip it over because we want to get this little piece here, which, looky, there's a scrap and it will fit perfectly. So let's do that next. I hear my dog clicking over because my boyfriend just came out into the room, and you know, my nosy McNosy little puppy has to make sure he knows what's going on with the whole family at all times. Alright, so there we go. Let's flip it over, and my glue is lifting a little bit. I should wait for it to dry. Too impatient. Make sure that none of your black strips go over your little channels where you've left like just a teeny tiny gap of space in between, because it will impede it when you go to, you know, lift it up and make it a solid structure. Like I said, it's probably better to leave it dry. For time's sake, I'm trying to get it done because I know this is probably as much fun as watching paint dry. And I'm not going to give exact measurements for the decorative paper because, you know, you may want to use scraps, you may want to hodgepodge it, you may want to, you know, piece it, you may, you know, that's entirely up to you. I would, however, wait until the entire thing is put together to put your decorative paper on. Because I did try to make one where I put the paper on first and the glue just looked horrible, and it also, like, you could see, you know, if it was uneven or there was like a shorter piece like this and it didn't quite line up, it was really visible, whereas when you just glue it together and then put the paper on later, covers up a wealth of little tiny imperfections that, you know, you may or may not care if they show. So just imparting a little bit of a FYI there. And then, as you can see, when you fold up your sides, it becomes the back of your stadium. Now, the way that we're gonna attach these is we're gonna put a strip on the outside and the inside, just like we did with the other portions, like this. And let me get some glue on this because I only have 2 hands. And I probably should have a clip or something, but by the time I finagled how to put the clip on, I'd have had this glued and put together. So, you know, patience is a virtue, but it's not one of mine. Okay, so you're going to hold the 2 sides up like this, and you're going to apply your scored black cardstock strip to the outside. You can, like, you know, press from the inside a little bit, not too hard so that you don't knock it over, but as you can see, it suddenly becomes a solid structure once you put your little strippies on. It's amazing to me how strong something made of paper and chipboard can become, like, instantaneously when you glue it together. And if you have questions about, well, is it going to be strong enough to hold what I want, you can always use some tie-back, like we use when we make junk journal spines, in lieu of using these black strips. But I mean, that's going to be a little pricey, and honestly, since you can throw one of these together in a couple, you know, like 30 minutes maybe, that's being generous without, you know, the decoration portion. And you can make it out of, you know, basically a cereal box and some paper. I really wouldn't stress on, you know, having to remake one if you use it for a while and it breaks down. So I'm gonna let that dry before I cut it off. Let's go on to this side. Grab your boob. Give it a squirt. Anyways, I haven't been doing very much paper crafting because of the pandemic. So when I got back into it today, I had a whole bunch of projects that I had to catch up on, and have literally been posting stuff to Facebook and YouTube, and that's like been my whole morning. And yeah, so that's pretty much all I've been doing today. And hoping that people are enjoying it, hoping everybody is well, and you know, I don't know if y'all are going back to work yet, because I never didn't go to work because I work at a hospital, but yeah, I'm thinking a lot of people are gonna lose their crafting time as I'm starting to gain mine back. But you know, if you got time and you want to make something and it's actually something useful and it uses up your scraps, you might want to try this. I will try to remember to put the chipboard measurements in the comments below the, you know, list the YouTube description. But like I said, I'm not super good at math, so hopefully, you know, this works out for y'all the way it worked out for me. So far I haven't had to finagle any, but right now, and they are the measurements that I gave in the beginning, but I haven't gotten to the hard part yet, so that is subject to change at any time. Come on, there we go. Okay, so hopefully you're starting to see the idea here of how this goes together and what kind of structure it creates. Let's put the front panel on, and the front panel works just the same as the back and sides did. I'm going to lay it down in front. We're going to glue on a strip. I also created some boxes. I think I showed them in the original video where I did the stadium reveal for my design team project for Release the Craft in. And so I posted some of those today on Facebook in a number of groups that I belong to, and people were like, are you going to do a tutorial for this? So if you liked this tutorial and you found it entertaining, interesting, and something you wanted to try, I'm most likely going to do a tutorial on the boxes too. And most of this came to fruition because I was trying to get rid of scraps. Now, granted, this box takes a lot of this stadium takes a lot of chipboard, so it's not really, like, some of them are quite large pieces and they're not really using up chipboard scraps per se, but it does use up scraps of paper if you want to just cover it with your extra, you know, printables you didn't use, or extra pieces of cardstock out of your scrap bin, because you know we all have a scrap bin that's about overflowing in half usually. So let me just glue this piece on the outside and we'll work on the corners and the inside. Ugh, this is the hard part. Well, not the hard part, but this is a more difficult part, because you want it to be lined up and neat enough. Oops, sorry if I got my head in the camera. To allow it to fold up, because you're going to want to close your box up. Let's put the inside strip in and see how that holds. Now, as far as the sections go inside, I just made one across and one here for like pencils, and then this will hold papers or what have you, you know, stationery supplies. However, you can change where you want the sections to be. That's personal preference. I will give you the measurements for where I put mine, but you can make more than one center section. I mean, it's just, you know, this is the basic structure of how I make it, and you can use your imagination and make it yours and do whatever you want. If you do, make sure that I see what you've done. Tag me if you put it on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatever. My boyfriend's making fun of me as I'm sitting here talking to y'all, because he doesn't realize that I'm not just sitting here talking to myself, that you guys are just hanging on my every word. He just doesn't know it. Right. Honey, I get it. Alright, so then when you fold that up, this flap comes up and you can close your box up. And again, the little strips that we made earlier, when you cut off, if you've cut a piece of 8.5 by 11 paper into 1-inch strips, then, or used 8.5 or used 11-inch strips or longer strips, you're going to have these little pieces left that you can place then on the shorter areas. You don't have to like keep making huge long strips. Part of the name of this game is trying to use up our scraps, so I hate when you make a project to try and use up your scraps and suddenly you're making more scraps. Yeah, it's not really cool. But it does tend to happen, because I mean, I don't know. I've never made anything entirely out of scraps. I've always had to have, you know, something, not necessarily purchased just for making that, but something that I, you know, broke into, whether it be just paper that I cut up or something like that. But that is how it usually works for me. And yeah, this doesn't want to stay. Hold on. Like I said, this probably would work better if I had some kind of like clips or something holding this together, but you know, it's not required, and by the time I found them, I probably would have it together. So that is how I roll. Let's see, now I'm gonna straighten the tops up on these, and we want to put our sections in here. So here's another short piece that I had. Perfect. Now you want to make sure that your strips go all the way across and touch each other, and you don't leave any gaps, because that portion will be visible after you put your paper on. And I mean, like I said, you can do it as neatly or as sloppily as you like. I'm not your mom, you make your decisions, but yeah. So I'm going to do the corners down here. Get me another piece. I don't have any more scraps. Unbelievable. And then we're going to glue this on. And then we're going to do the section in the middle, and all that'll be left is to cut your decorative papers and put them on. I probably will do that off camera and then just come back and show you the finished product, because like I said, the measurements are kind of nonsensical to give you because I don't know what you're going to use to cover yours, but basically if you wanted to cover the whole thing with paper from a straight sheet, you could just do like you do with anything else you mat. You would measure your piece, cut off like 1/4 of an inch, because that'll leave an 1/8 of an inch gap where the black shows on both sides, and this direction as well, and then just glue your paper down. Anybody who's ever made a mini album or, you know, matted a photograph in scrapbooking, it's basically pretty standard fare. Now, here is the part that could be potentially a bit difficult and could be where my measurements are not wonderful. However, we're going to try this and see if it works out. So, I measured in 3 1/4 inches from one side of the center 11 by 4 1/2 inch piece. I'm going to cut an 1/8 of an inch slot that goes 3 1/4 inches from the top of that piece. See this part with the scribbles in it? That's the part we're going to cut out. So let's do that. You're going to cut all the way from the top down. If you want to use a craft knife, whatever, this doesn't have to be perfect and pretty. It is going to get covered up by some of those black strips, but this is going to allow your center section to slide over your side sections in order to you know, create like an X here. I'll show you as soon as I cut it. This is your center piece that was cut the same dimensions as the side piece, where you cut a 5 1/2 inch square and then go up 2 inches and angle cut it. It is 6 1/2 inches in this direction. So, sorry, I said 5 1/2 inch square. I meant 6 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch square. Then you're going to measure up again, I'd say 2 inches from the bottom and 3 inches in. Probably should be 3 1/4 inches in. There we go. 3 1/4 inches in. And this one is 3 1/2 inches. So I've got to move my little slot over a bit. See? Math, not my thing. And hopefully I won't mess this up, or I'm going to have to cut another piece. And that would be tragical. So let's try cutting this. Cross your fingers. Say a prayer to whoever you believe in. And hopefully this will work. We'll see. Okay, so I'm going to cut this slot out. And I have a feeling this is going to be a mess, and I'll probably have to edit, but we'll see. Pull this piece out, and then what you essentially want to do is fit this piece in, and then fit this piece in. Yay for us, that worked! Haha, I'm so excited. And so this will fit in and be the appropriate height. This is slightly high, but if you slide it back to the appropriate area where this matches up with the sides, see how that matches up with the sides? That's how you know how far back to slide this. It should match up with the sides. So that's what you're going to do, is set it in like that, and then you're going to take your black strips and you are going to, again, adhere them on both sides of your area that you just put together. I mean, measure this put some glue on it. And that's what basically holds your center structure in place. I'm also going to put black strips along the bottom to give it a little more stability. I'll show you what I'm talking about, but let's put this first one in just to hold it tight. Oh, I'm so excited that my math worked out. You guys don't even know how I was struggling, worried about that. Because whenever people say, oh, can you make a tutorial on that? I'm like, sure. And then I think, except for I didn't write down any of the measurements while I was making it, so I have to go back and figure out what in the world I did. Nifty, huh? I don't know. Is everybody else as like disorganized as me, or is it just like a personality flaw I have? Never know. Really, do you? Okay, so I don't know if you all are finding this interesting as far as me gluing these strips in, because to me it's really like watching paint dry. But basically what I'm going to do is cover each one of these intersections, see the intersections, with the black stock, and then I'm going to take and run the pieces along the bottom here like I did on these sides. So let me do that off camera because I think this is probably really boring. I may put my paper on a while and then I will come back and show you guys the finished product. So I hope that everything has been understandable. If you have questions, please leave them in the, in the comments, and I will try to clarify. And yeah, so I'll be back. See you in a minute. Okay guys, I'm back. Here is what the stadium looks like with paper on it. I know someone's gonna ask. I bought this as a digital kit printout. I do not remember the name of the shop, but I can look it up on Etsy and I can put a link to it in the description box. So yeah, so if you have any questions about the stadium, how it was built, anything that was unclear, just put it in the comments and I will be happy to address it for you. I love this digital. I haven't used it in a journal yet, but the imagery is really, really pretty. So anyway, so I guess that's it. That was my stadium tutorial on how to build storage for your crafting items or your desktop, and probably next up I'm going to show you how to build boxes with leftover chipboard, and both hinged and lidded boxes, because per request I had someone wanted to know how to make a hinge box. So that's all I have for today, and hope everyone is safe and well. Take care of yourselves. See you later. Bye.